am very pleased that President Obama will be taking action in the next week or two to tighten the background checks under his executive authority. It's really important. I've said we need comprehensive background checks. We need to close the gun show loophole, close the online loophole, close what's called the Charleston loophole, end the blanket immunity from liability that gun makers and sellers have. And for heaven's sakes, prohibit anyone on the no-fly list from buying a gun. If you are too dangerous to fly, you are too dangerous to buy a gun.
And here's another important part of this debate. If the president or anybody somehow stopped every American from legally getting a gun right now, there would still be more than 300 million firearms in America, many illegally owned, many ready to be used for crime. Isn't this the more important starting point for any fight on weaponry? Let's welcome back the former New York City police officer and current radio talk show host in West Palm Beach, Florida, John Cardillo. All right, John, let's get right to it here. 300 million guns in America. Everybody could own multiple guns here if indeed they did. Is it not fair to say that, and I'm going to talk about a little bit of this loophole in a moment here, but shouldn't we start there, going after the tons of illegal weapons that are out there, and they are constantly being sold, bought, bartered, and thrown against and thrown at each other, at different criminals every single day?
You know, I had one of my other police department colleagues on my radio show, and we did a little simple math. If you eradicated 99.9% of the illegal guns, and you were only left with 1 million illegal guns in this country, there are only about 12,000 gun homicides a year. That gives each criminal about 100 guns to choose from. So these feel-good gun control measures will do nothing to reduce violent crime.
So then what do we do then to get to the illegal weapons? John, give me a simple, succinct, short answer.
What cities like New York City currently do, robbery and firearms task forces that profile and monitor, target the predicate offenders who you know are doing robberies and doing harm with firearms, go after them, throw political correct nonsense out the window, and allow cops to do their job.
But wait a minute, John, you used the word profile in there, and you know right now that is the second you use that word, there are people going to say that every cop, you included, John Cardillo, if you were still a cop, you would be abusing that right now, and profiling is wrong. But I'm going to say this out loud. Maybe we need to say this out loud. Maybe profiling is necessary if we really want to get to the bottom of the gun problem.
Look, Ed, not only is profiling necessary, it works. You profile the criminal you're going after, you monitor. I'm Italian American. When the police or the FBI go after La Cosa Nostra, I want them profiling Italian Americans. I don't want them profiling Asian Americans to go after the Italian mob. Not profiling is stupid, unsound law enforcement policy.
All right, here comes 2 minutes left, and I also want to get to this. I'm a gun owner. And I'm a concealed weapons holder as well. I'm not afraid to go ahead and say that out loud because I want everybody to know where I'm coming from on this. I personally have no problem with deeper background checks, John. I don't have a problem with people going to gun shows waiting to get their weapon. I have no issue with it. I have a lot of friends who are in and out of the NRA who also have no problem with that. What's the big deal, John? What's wrong with deeper background checks? Doesn't seem to me like it hurts anybody.
Well, nothing, but they already exist, and the gun show.
Deeper. No. Wait a minute, John.
But deeper.
We know they exist. Deeper checks, but
deeper?
Anybody who goes to a gun show has to sit and wait. You can't just go to a gun show and buy a weapon immediately.
That you can't. That's a false narrative. Don't promote that false narrative. If you go to a gun show and buy a gun today from any dealer at the gun show, 99.9% of them are FFL, Federal Firearms License
Right,
holders.
But what about the smaller scale gun retailers?
I go to almost every gun show in South Florida. Once in a blue moon you see them, and they've got antiques on the table.
What about the smaller scale gun sellers, though, John? What about those that the president is saying need to get a federal license and then has to have people run the background checks?
Look, I have no problem with a background check for a purchase, but what I'm trying to say is those guys, you could go to 10 gun shows, you might only find one or two of those guys. They don't exist. What Obama's doing is a slippery slope toward placing people on subjective lists that are then incorporated into these deeper background checks so they can weaponize the ATF against adversaries like they did the IRS.
Do you really believe, though, that the president, and again, I'm not a fan of Barack Obama, but you really believe that this president is looking to make sure that the ATF and the government can get right into everybody's kitchen, can roll around, and can learn a lot more about them simply because of guns?
If they hadn't done with the IRS what they did, I would say no, but after seeing that, I'm not willing to chance it.
Okay, do you believe, 10 seconds, do you believe that this will erode or that the president wants to get rid of completely the Second Amendment?
I do believe that Obama is progressive enough that he believes private gun ownership should go away. I do believe he would get rid of it if he could, yes.
People need to know that John Cardillo and I are friends. We have these kind of arguments all the time
Yep.
on social media. It's not like we just do it here for show. We do this all the time. John Cardillo, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for joining us.